You've decided you want to hunt with a crossbow. You want quality, you want speed, you want dependability, but you don't want to get into that $2,000 or $3,000 level. Well, I may have the answer for you. The TenPoint Stealth 450. It may be exactly what you're looking for. Let's break it down and see if it's the right crossbow for you. Coming up next on Trinity Wild. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. So, your situation, you've got a good deer property. It wasn't free. You've put a lot of work into it. You want a crossbow that's going to be able to get the job done. But you've got a price in your head. I'm not spending more than $2,000. This may be your answer. The TenPoint Stealth 450. At 450 feet per second, definitely going to get the job done. And at $1,700, keeps you under $2,000. So like always, we're going to unbox it, build it, show you how it operates, and then get it on the range and take a few shots. And I like to do it that way so somebody who looks at this crossbow online and says, yeah, I want to go ahead and order it. There's not a shop near me. You don't have to feel intimidated to get this on your doorstep and see it's not a problem putting it together. It really is very simple. So if you're going to walk into a shop and buy one, you can skip that first part and just go right to the good stuff. Let's get started. Gonna have a cover piece there, pull that out, and there we go. Let's go ahead and break everything out and lay it out. All right, that's everything out of the box. As you can see, there's not a lot to it. There's no reason to be intimidated whatsoever. Here's your manual. You've got a little bit of rail lube in there. We'll talk about that later. Sticker, gotta have a sticker. There's your quiver and quiver bracket. Comes with 3 bolts. These are the Pro Elite bolts with a 100-grain field point. Your rangemaster scope, speed dial, so you're going to dial in the speed of your crossbow there. And this thing shoots 450 feet per second. We'll check that out and make sure it's right. And there's your crossbow, the Stealth 450. A couple of things I do want to go through with you on that is the AcuSlide. So it's an internal crank that allows you to cock and decock. And one of the upgrades they've done on these I'm really glad about is this rail strut here. Believe it or not, last year I had 3 of these rails just snap right in half. So I really am glad that they put that on there. Now, comparing it again to the Ravin, unlike the Ravin where there is no rail, this actually does have a rail. Now, the way they've designed this is that string has minimum contact to that rail, but you still are going to want to make sure that you're using rail lube. But as you can see, it is just minimal contact with that rail. Another thing they've got on the Ravin is a bow hanger. Ravin doesn't have that. And if you're somebody that's going to climb in your tree stand and try to hang your bow on a hook, that'll be a really nice extra there. There we are. So let's go ahead and get it put together and show you how it operates. Okay, there's a quiver bracket. It's a pick mount, so all I'm going to do is loosen the screw there. That's going to slide out and allow me to slide it onto the pick rail. I say slide, but it won't slide because there's a little notch right there. So just open it up until you can fit it on there and then just tighten it down. I do like to snug that down with a pair of pliers right quick just to make sure. This is something you always want to check right before you go out in the field. Just make sure it's always tight, because as you shoot these crossbows, there is a lot of energy being shaken every time you shoot. So do make sure that your screws and bolts are tight every now and then. Then to attach the quiver, all I'm doing is pushing that in. It's a pretty good spring. You can see how the quiver mounts there, the little triangles, and you're just going to push that in, put that down, and there you have it. And see how it's kind of angled out from the crossbow? That way you know you got it. I don't want it angled in towards it. It's just my bolts are gonna end up hitting on the crossbow. And that's that. Let's flip it over and mount the scope. All right, so they already have the scope rings mounted, and what that means is they've already centered it, but always take a look, because every now and then I'll pull one of these out of the box, and that scope, when you mount it, is a little bit canted left or right. You want to make sure and check that out and level that up. So right now, I'm going to put it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That usually sits about right as far as eye relief goes. You'll have to do that on your own. And for this, all I'm going to do right now is just finger tighten these until I get my eye relief like I like it. So when I look into the scope, I'm getting the full view. So I'm just going to finger tighten for now and check that. Now, once I do check that, I am going to tighten these down and make sure they're at spec. Since this crossbow shoots 450, we've already got this set at 450. I'm going to go ahead and pull that cap off too, so I can adjust my diopter and get my focus. My eyes are, as I've gotten older, my eyes have gotten really bad, so I have to crank that thing way on out. And you can move it forward or backward until you get that right, and then we'll go through operation. I think I want to move that forward just a tiny bit Let me get that done. All right, so now I've got that 6 forward. And for me, that is absolutely spot on. Get that diopter a little bit closer. Too much. There we go. So that's how I like it. I've set that back scope ring up at 6 forward. Perfect for me. Diopter is about halfway out. As I aim, yep. I think I could whack one of my chickens from here. Oh yeah, she's just standing there, no idea I'm here. First things first, get the tags off. Be very careful. If you happen to cock this crossbow and the tags are on it and your trigger gets wrapped around that tag, well, you're gonna have to go to a shop and get that undone because it's not gonna come out of there very easily. All right, so tags off. And I do want to touch on that scope again for just a second. A lot of times when I've done a lot of these videos, I've said, you know, just snug it down, and I get roasted in the comments. Rightly so. In that manual somewhere, it will tell you exactly how many inch-pounds you want to have when you lock that scope down. Now, these have already been done to spec. This one's not as big a deal, but there is a correct way to do that. Make sure when you're mounting your scope, you know exactly how many inch-pounds you need to put on there. And if you're mounting the scope and you damage it, that's on you. They're not going to warranty anything like that. So make sure you look up in the manual, know exactly how many inch-pounds. If you don't know what that means, then yes, snug it down until you can get somewhere and get someone that does know what that means and can lock it in correctly for you, because it really does matter. I'm spending north of $1,000 on a crossbow. You can bet I'm going to make sure I get that right. All right, scope rant over. So now the way this AcuSlide system works is the entire trigger box is going to come down and lock onto the string, and then you are going to reel it back in. And kind of comparing it again with the Ravin 29, it operates a little bit the same. The entire trigger box is going to come down and lock onto the string, and then you're going to reel it back in. So first thing, we're going to tip the crossbow down. We're going to put it on the ground. You're going to see me a lot of times have it up on my leg just so you can see. Don't do that. Put it on the ground. Okay, good example here. As soon as I set that on the ground, I could tell that the bow hanger from the factory out of the box, really loose. But you got an Allen wrench. All we're gonna do is put it in there where those little set screws are. We're gonna tighten that down. Sitting around hunting camp, getting ready to go out the next day. The night before is a good time to be looking at this kind of thing. Don't wait till the next morning while you're sitting in your tree stand and all of a sudden something's rattling and you can't figure out what it is. Check it before you get in the woods. All right, let's go through the cocking operation. So as you see right here, this is gonna be your release lever. All I'm gonna do is push that down, and you see that releases the trigger box. If I've done everything right, that trigger box should do that. It should slide down on and on. Now, I'm gonna take my finger and I'm gonna push down until, see how this is on fire? When I cock it onto the string, you're gonna hear and you're gonna see it's coming back to safe. From there, we're gonna take our crank handle out of its space, put it in the crank, and we're just gonna crank it back. And again, I kind of like to wrap my feet around it, keep it still. We're gonna crank it all the way back now. As it's coming all the way back, I'm watching. Watch here and listen. You're gonna see that lever jump. You're gonna hear it when it catches on to the trigger box. So watch closely. There it is. Stop. Do not crank it anymore. Unlike the Ravin, where I can continue to crank, there's a slip in the crank handle. This does not have that. If you continue to crank this, you are going to damage the internals of this crank. All right, we're cocked. Now, very important, unwind one time. Take your crank handle out. Now you're going to push down this little plastic button over here. What that does is hold the gears inside still while I unscrew that right there. All I'm doing there is taking the brake off. If you do not take this brake off, the next time you go to cock it, the trigger box is not going to drop down to the string. And you're going to think, oh no, I've messed it up. I'll show you how to take care of that here in a minute. We're going to take our crank handle, put it right back where it goes. Now, as you put that handle in, make sure it stays straight in line with your crossbow. If it's here, it's not going to go back in correctly, and I see a lot of people damage their crank handle that way. Keep it lined up. You'll see there's some little flat parts there. Shoves it right back in, and we are ready to go. All we need now is a bolt. We take our bolt. As you'll notice, there's two colors. There's a 2 green and 1 white. The odd feather will go down into the rail. As I load this crossbow, I want to keep my hands in front of those axles. That's where the string is going to come back to. If something were to accidentally happen while I'm loading this crossbow, if I've got the odd feather down and I'm pushing it back, and for some reason I've got my hand back here and this thing goes off, heaven knows where that bolt's going to go, but I guarantee you my fingers are going to be gone. I want to keep it up here. So if something were to happen, again, I've never seen it happen, but if it were to, I'm in the safe zone, believe it or not. It seems counterintuitive, but in here is the safe zone. Nothing bad is going to happen to my hand in here. If I get too close to it, something bad will happen to my face, but nothing bad's going to happen to my hand as long as I keep it here. I want to make sure that that bolt gets seated against the string. When I talk to TenPoint, to their engineers and the people that fix their crossbows, they tell me probably 75% of the issues they have when crossbows blow up and nobody knows what happened, they're going to say the bolt was not seated all the way up against the string. So check that and just make sure that looks correct. And what you'll notice is where your bolt comes to on that riser. Make sure you familiarize yourself with where that bolt is. So if you put it down here and all of a sudden you look and go, oh wait, that's way higher than it should be, your bolt's not seated, because it's really difficult to see down in there. So understand when my bolt is back, I want to notice where my bolt comes to the end. That thing comes right to the end of the riser, not counting the point. They do come with fill points, by the way, so you don't have to order fill points extra, just so you know. That bolt comes right to the end of the riser. We're ready to hunt. So now the hunt's over. We didn't take a shot. We want to decock the crossbow now. Very easy to do. Let me show you how. First things first, take the bolts out. That may seem like a no-brainer, but I tell you, people will do it. They'll try to decock it with the bolt still in it. Please don't do that. Take the bolt out. To decock the crossbow, I'm going to take my handle back out. When we unscrewed this, what we did was take the brake off. But when I decock it, I now have to put the brake back on. One, and you'll feel it tighten up. Now, as it begins to get some tension on it, I'm going to start pushing the lever, the catch lever down, and about there. Well, I put my thumb over here just so you can see. As I'm tightening up, you'll see that lever drop. Now I'm going to begin to back wind and you'll see the trigger box coming down. Now that brake allows me to take my hand off anytime. Ooh, that brake's not on very good. We're going to lower that. It's actually, I've never seen this before, where this brake is moving a little bit. It stopped. So what I'm doing here, lowering it down all the way down to the bottom. Now, once I get it to the bottom, and let's get a little bit of slack here, take it out, put my crank handle back into the cradle, and I'm good. I don't need to do anything with this. Just leave that right there. It's perfectly fine and ready for the next hunt. So I cocked the crossbow, but I did not do the last part that I showed you. Let me show you what happens if I don't take the brake off. I've got it cocked, I've got it loaded. I'm gonna go ahead and take a shot. Now watch. Nothing happens. The trigger box won't go down because the brake is on. Easy to fix, don't panic. What happened was you forgot to back wind. So just go back and do the part you forgot. Put your handle in, back wind one time, put your finger on the little button, take that out. And now we've unscrewed this as far as it'll go. It's only gonna turn maybe half a turn. It's not gonna go far. We push our release lever down and down she goes. Simple as that. No need to panic. Let's run it through the chronograph right quick, just to double check. I think I know what we're gonna get. 442, okay, 442. One more. 440. So I'm gonna make an adjustment to the speed dial and I'm gonna go ahead and get it sighted in. I'm not gonna bore you with all that. I'll be right back. And by the way, if you have a crossbow and you don't have one of these 10-point arrow pullers from Bednar, you are missing out. You gotta have that. Especially if, oh my goodness. Yep, there's no way I could get a handle. There's no way I would have been able to get a hold of that well enough to get that out of that block. Link in the description below. Get you one of these arrow pullers. I assure you, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. So it took 4 shots to get this thing sighted in at 20 yards. If sighting in a crossbow is new to you, it might take a little bit more, but I've sighted in a bunch, so four shots is about normal. So I went and stuck my target out in the woods a little bit deeper so I could get some further shots. So you'll see here I went 30. Was so close, about knocked the target over. And then at 40 dead on, I mean dead on. And then out to 50. And as you notice too, always make sure, especially sighting in, but when you're shooting a crossbow, don't shoot at the same dot. A lot of us, when we're shooting our bows, we like to say, let me see what kind of group I can get. Don't do that with a crossbow. You're gonna beat your bolts to death, and sometimes you're gonna nick them. You're gonna hit that knock and weaken that knock and not know it, and then go to shoot your crossbow. Your knock explodes and your crossbow explodes. Then you gotta come bring your crossbow to me to fix instead of being in the woods. So don't do that. So overall, man, typical 10-point, great crossbow, easy to sight in, easy to put together as you saw. I do want to compare this with the Ravin R29X. So comparing these two crossbows really just because of the speed. So both of them are 450 feet per second. Now my Ravin is almost dead on 450 every time. As you saw when we chronoed the Stealth, it was 442, but it sighted in very easily. And I assure you, the kinetic energy I'm getting out of both is 100. I think with the bolts we're shooting, kinetic energy is in the 180s. So a few feet per second is not an issue. Weight-wise, the Ravin is a little bit lighter because, of course, it's smaller. It's 29 inches from front to back. I believe the Stealth is going to be 33. Axle to axle is pretty comparable. Here's one thing I will say. A lot of times, when I shoot this Ravin, if I put it on a tripod, which is what I did with this, and as you saw, I shot it really, really well just from one of those little Primos tripods. I got to tell you, when I try to shoot the shorter one, off one of those Primos tripods, I don't shoot it well at all, especially past 50 yards. Now I didn't take this one past 50. I don't have the room back here to do it past 50. But as you saw off that tripod, it shot great. I feel like for me, the longer platform, I hold steadier. So what comes with the crossbow? The scopes are pretty comparable. I think this is the older scope that comes on the Ravin. This new Rangemaster scope, I think I like it a little bit better. I can see it much more clearly than I can on the regular R29X. For me, if I'm gonna hunt with a crossbow, I'm gonna put the Ravin sniper scope on there just because of my eyes. I didn't really have that problem with this scope. I felt like I saw it really well. Even with my glasses on, I can see the scope pretty clearly. They both crank silently, so that's not an issue. Weight-wise, I believe the Ravin might be it's probably not even a pound, probably 3/4 of a pound lighter, but because it's smaller too. Both of them have great triggers. This is actually a 2-stage trigger, meaning you're gonna take up the slack and then pull the trigger. Super crisp, super clean. It is not a Trigger Tech trigger that comes on the higher end ones, but I can't say the Trigger Tech trigger is a make or break for me. This is solid. No rail, very, very small rail, and the way that string travels on the rail, very minimal contact. We talk about rail lube, no rail lube here, very little rail lube here, but you gotta make sure you do that. String wax, really not necessary because the only place you've got to open string is right there. It's all serving, same here, it's all serving. There's just a very tiny bit of string there. The bracing on the scope, the rail on the Ravin, as you can see, it's braced all the way across. The new struts that go on these rails on the 10-point, I really, really like. We mentioned that earlier. Focus on the 10-point. What's it got over the Ravin? You've got the bow hanger. Ravin does not have that. The cost of strings on them, the cost of upkeep is about the same. Changing them out is about the same. One of the issues I've seen with 10-points over the last several years has been the strings and them not holding up. but it's very obvious that these strings, they have redesigned these and they've got double serving on the center serve. And what I've seen over the last year, year and a half is almost no string issues. The other thing is the decock mechanism. Maybe you got a young one that you're wanting to use it and they're going to be using it for their first time by themselves, and you want them to be able to decock the crossbow. I think the TenPoint is the only way to go because of the safety factor. With the Ravin, as you're decocking it, there's always that issue that it could come out of your hand. This one has that brake on it. Now, you do have to make sure that you take the brake off before you shoot. Otherwise, the trigger box is not going to drop, but I showed you. Super easy to fix, and you'll know right away, oh darn, I forgot to do it. I do it all the time. I've even done it in other videos where I forgot to take that brake off. And what a lot of us really care about is the cost. Ravin R29 is going to be $23.99 in the black. If you add the camo, you add $200 to the cost. With the TenPoint, $16.49. Add $100 for the camo. And this is Vector camo. I really like the looks of it. So you're looking at $17.50 as opposed to $2,500. Both shoot 450, both shoot lights out. Both great companies with great customer service. And anybody who's already got a Stealth, what's been your experience? Are you happy with it so far? Because I gotta say, if I'm looking to stay under $2,000, I don't know that you're gonna beat this right here. So you guys have seen what it looks like. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Hey, if you enjoyed the video today, hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for all your support, all the great comments and great encouragement, guys. I really appreciate that. And even the comments where you call me out on stuff that I messed up, I appreciate that too. Thank you all for watching. Now it's time to get outside and get wild. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much, and God bless. Something been creeping around my backyard, hadn't he? I love it.